Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Juliet Kubega. I'm a tarot reader and a spiritual coach. And in this video, I want us to talk about the 7 things that you don't need as a spiritual woman. Now, the reason why I want us to have this video is because the reason why I actually wanted to film this video is because the spiritual community has made some things look like a must-have to be considered spiritual enough, but I want to assure you that you don't need these things to be considered a spiritual woman. And number 1 is having a house or a room full of plants. I understand how aesthetically pleasing that can be, and I also understand how energetically how it affects you energetically, but I do want to stress the fact that if you are in a position where, for instance, you have a lot on your plate, then having plants is probably not going to help you in any kind of way. It's going to frustrate you, and this is from experience, and I'm not projecting my experience onto you. I'm just sharing a little bit of what I know. Having plants only frustrates you because you are overstimulated and overwhelmed by everything that is currently going on in your life, and having to take care of something else can be a little bit stressful. But besides that, a lot of people will tell you that having plants is important for you energetically. It cleanses the space, which is beautiful. It's very true, but taking care of plants is a lot, and just because you don't have plants or you don't feel the need to have plants in order to have your space clean doesn't necessarily mean you're not spiritual enough. And lastly, I want us to talk about this. Plants feed off of your energy. So if you are not in a good place emotionally, then most of the time your plants are not going to look that good. Again, this is from experience. There was a time where I had a very beautiful plant, and it's only started looking beautiful now again, but I was in a very rough space emotionally, and I never used to take care of it, and it would just fall off. And that goes back to what I'm saying. Plants feed off of your energy, not the other way around. Okay, so moving on to number 2. This can be a little bit controversial, but anyway, I'm going to say it. Crystals. You do not need to have crystals to be considered spiritual or to consider yourself spiritual. And it's the same thing with plants. You know, crystals usually feed off of your energy, and more importantly, your intention. I have used crystals for probably like 3 years now, if not 4 years, and I can say with confidence that the first 1 or 2 years of me, the first year or 2 years of me using crystals, I didn't even see the benefits of them. I remember the first set of crystals that I got were crystals that will help you with manifesting abundance. I am not the wealthiest woman on the planet. And at that time, I was struggling financially, so I wasn't really attracting the financial abundance that I was hoping to attract from the crystals. And this is not because they don't work, but this is because I thought crystals were some magical thing that would just solve all of my problems. So crystals also feed off of your intention and your energy, and that's why it's important to have crystals when you're in a position where you're like, I am not in a good place, but I'm in a position where I am willing to heal, where I'm willing to uncover some of the things that, for instance, in my case, some of the things that block me from being financially abundant, and that's why I'm going to be getting crystals. I understand that crystals are not going to make money fall off of trees or the sky, like whatever, I am just shifting your perspective on how crystals are going to impact your life. That's when I would encourage you to start getting crystals. Number 3, fancy or too many journals. This is a mistake I made, okay? This is a mistake I made. I'm one person, I'm easily overstimulated, I'm easily overwhelmed, and I know this is a common personality trait in most people who are on their spirituality journey, and that's because you're going through your spiritual awakening, you're going through a lot of emotional trauma, you're trying to heal this, you're trying to manifest that, you're trying to look like this, you're trying to change your fashion style, you're trying to buy crystals, you're trying to leave your job, you're trying to start a business. All of these things can put you in a position where you're overstimulated and you're overwhelmed. And so with that said, having too many journals doesn't help you in any kind of way. I know a lot of spiritualists recommend this. Have a manifestation journal, have a gratitude journal, have a journal where you journal your feelings, have a this journal. All of that confuses the shit out of you, and that's the honest truth. I'm saying this not only because I've experienced this, but because a lot of people around me have kind of experienced the same thing, where they try to make their journey look like that of influencers online, when in reality these people are either lying about their lifestyle or they've been through a lot of healing to a point where they understand why they're overwhelmed, why they're overstimulated. You are only starting out, so one journal is perfect. You don't even need a fancy journal. I'm about to show you something. You can get these simple notebooks, don't worry yourself about getting the fanciest journal, a guided journal and all of that. It's all about you recording your journey and you learning how to heal yourself. It's not a competition. Right. Number 4, this is another one, and I really love this one the most because this is one of the ones that I almost fell for, but I didn't fall for. This is having fancy candles and aromatherapy, and all of that. First of all, I don't have the space for that. Or at that time, I didn't have the space for that. Currently, I do. Second of all, I didn't have the money for that, right? And so we put so much pressure on ourselves, and we only reaffirm the self-doubt, the lack mentality and mindset by wanting these things that we don't necessarily need, but we are convincing ourselves that we do need them because we keep comparing ourselves to people on social media. Fancy candles. I know a lot of people need candles to pray, maybe for rituals, for cord cutting and all of that. And so I'm not saying you don't need candles altogether, but I am saying that you can get away with having the simplest, I don't know what they're called, these long candles. Those are the cheapest candles. You can get away with having those. And if you're trying to make your home or your life a lot more aesthetically pleasing, you can also get away with using those type of candles, and I'll insert some pictures here, in creating a more aesthetically pleasing environment. You don't need an expensive candle, right? And it doesn't take away from you being a spiritual woman. It doesn't. Okay. The candle is not what matters. The intention matters more. Number five is also a little bit controversial, but I am going to tell you why I think it's something you don't need, and that is books. I don't think you need new books on spiritual awakening, enlightenment, and all of that. Now, here's the thing. If you are someone who does not like reading, I personally love reading, but I love reading fiction as opposed to nonfiction, right? So if you are someone who's like me, or someone who doesn't like reading at all, or someone who generally does like reading, you don't have to force yourself into getting millions and millions of, millions is a little bit crazy, but you don't have to force yourself into getting a lot of books all in the name of trying to learn spirituality. The important part about spirituality is getting to know yourself. And sometimes books don't help you get to know yourself. They help you get to know the experience that the person wrote. They help you know, they help you know the experience of the author, right? So basically, for example, the author will tell you shadow work, you need to do shadow work 10 times a day, when in reality it probably doesn't make sense for the person that you are, right? So books are important. They do help us in self-development. Some books help us in self-growth, and self-love and all of these things, spirituality. But in reality, this is not something that you need when you are fresh out of the box and you're like, I wanna release all of this energy, negative energy, whatever it is that is triggering that spiritual growth or spiritual awakening. You don't need books. That's it. By the way, I'm sorry about the noise if you can hear it. And then here's another one that is a little bit controversial. I might get a lot of hate for this one. That is number 6, and those are tarot cards. I bought tarot cards a little bit later onto my spiritual journey. And I mean, I'm glad I bought tarot cards because I'm a tarot reader, and I feel like it is my purpose to help people with that kind of guidance. But I do want to assure you that tarot or any other divination tool shouldn't be the only thing you rely on when you're learning how to listen to your intuition. Now, this helped me listen to my intuition a lot. This helped me trust a lot in my potential, my purpose, and my spiritual gifts. But tarot cards or oracle cards are not all that, right? So I notice a lot of people make the mistake of purchasing tarot cards, purchasing, for example, too many candles and this and this and books and that, to a point where they get a little too overwhelmed with where exactly they wanna go on their spiritual journey. So this is part of the reason why I don't recommend getting tarot cards. Another thing is, people currently use tarot as a get rich quick scheme, and I can promise you something. I don't make millions off of reading tarot. There are weeks where I go without getting a booking. There are weeks where I get too many bookings to a point where it's very overwhelming. So tarot shouldn't necessarily be something that you need in order to feel like a certified spiritual woman, right? So this is the last one, number 7, and this is fancy metaphysical products or fancy tools altogether. For example, you don't need fancy yoga sets, you don't need a fancy like yoga mat and blocks and all of that, and the reason why you need none of these things is because these are not the things that matter when it comes to the practice. And this goes for everything that I've listed in this video. None of these things matter, especially if the intention is not there. And this is something that I've had to learn, I think 2 years into practicing yoga. The intention matters more than the pose, than the attire, than the yoga mat, than the blocks. How you feel during the process, how you want to feel, how you try to feel is more important than what it is that you have that's meant to help you feel that way. I don't know if you get me. So that's it for the video, guys. I hope this helps you in some kind of way. This video was created for those women who feel that they don't have enough money to be spiritual enough. This is a reminder that you don't need to be rich to be spiritual. You don't need to be financially stable to be spiritual. You don't need to have all of these things to be spiritual. Spirituality is about self. It's about getting to know yourself. It's about learning how to love yourself, how to heal from your traumas, how to connect to yourself. It's about self-awareness. And self-awareness doesn't rely on plants or how many crystals you have or how many journals you have or how often you journal. It doesn't depend on how often you do yoga or how often you meditate. It's all about the intention and how you want to feel moving forward, you wanting to get to know your triggers and all of that. That's it for the video. Again, I'll see you the next upload. Bye bye.